lights glow in twilight's mist, blinding dreams with silver twist, slipping between the realms of time, a fatal mystery sublime. Eyes behold its shimmering dance, lost in terror, lost in trance, yearning touch, but pulling back. Life and death now fade to black. Shining wire that cuts so deep, whispered secrets we must keep. Inlay cold, my fears entwine. Mortality in silver fine. Threads of fate we cannot see bind us in their misery. We lose ourselves in dark delights through the endless haunting nights. Shining wire, it calls our name, ignites our fear, inspires our shame. Black echoes of inlays choir, death waits on the shining wire. Shining wire that cuts so deep, whispered secrets we must keep. Inlay cold, but fears entwine. Mortality in silver fine.
That's right. This is Radio Vox, everybody, with your top 5 all-time greatest Vox Day hits today. I just put in Mid-Journey right now, which is my little AI thing. I said, make me an objectivist superhero in Steve Ditko style. This is an objectivist superhero, I guess. Do you find Spider-Man to be an objectivist character, Mark?
No, but sure.
He is now.
That's right.
Mort Todd, former Marvel Comics editor right here, who is running a beautiful project with actual Steve Ditko stuff. So if you were editor, would you turn Spider-Man into an objectivist hero like Mid-Journey just did?
Well, I think Steve managed to sneak some stuff in that stand and stomp all over. So,
and we have
like Parker's motivations, and and of course, he was being selfish in his origin, and that's why Uncle Ben died. And selfishness is a virtue.
Selfishness is a virtue.
You never heard that?
What's going on?
Oh, we've heard it. We've heard it.
See, if he hadn't been selfish and let that criminal kill his uncle, he never would have become Spider-Man.
That's actually true. That's interesting.
It's stupid,
way of looking at it
true,
right there. Oh, we are in for such a treat today. I have idolized these two men right here for a long, long time. I think they're fantastic people. I have. And they have a new project right now as they're keeping Steve Ditko's legacy alive, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about, as you guys might be aware if you've been here for a long time, with a new Indiegogo project called Steve Ditko's Amazing Heroes and Monsters, which is going right now, guys. I've got that link in the description. I'll put it in the chat for you if you haven't seen it just yet. And we'll talk about this today. So it's really interesting. I kind of got in touch with Mark about, is it like 2 years ago now ish?
It's been a few years, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. I started discovering a lot of Steve Ditko's later work and going into that because I was just sitting here going, it's really a crying shame that more people don't know about Mr. A, don't know about Static. Actually, is my favorite out of all of them.
Cool.
And it's like, it's really bizarre that he's just been kind of ignored. And we always talk about this a lot here. This is a recurring theme, is that if you don't sell your soul and you kind of, and you don't take the ticket, and I think your uncle would very much identify with some of this language right here. You kind of get ignored by the mainstream, and they don't lift you up, and that's exactly what happened in my opinion. Is that kind of how you guys see it as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of people resented that he wouldn't do interviews and bow down and like a dog to his fans and stuff. So, and that was reflective over the years.
Yeah. Then and at some point he just, I don't know, unplugged, from everybody in a way and just said, hey, you know what? I'm doing my own thing then. Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to stick to my own guns. He has his own philosophy. He had his own mission. And he wanted to say what he wanted to say, and he just stuck to that.
Yep.
And just did it through his art right there. Cool stuff.
That sounds like me long before I was me. Honestly.
Yeah, I would Ditko principles since 1925.
Go ahead, Vox.
The thing is, it is very difficult for most people to even think about doing that. Most people don't have that option. They don't have either the talent, the skill, or the personal stamina to operate without adulation, without approval. It was interesting back. I don't know if you're aware, but back in 2015 and 2016, we blew up the Hugo Awards, and
oh yeah, I think that's when I first heard of you.
Well, the thing that was remarkable to me is that it honestly took the science fiction mainstream about 3 years to figure out that I genuinely didn't care about winning awards. Like they literally thought that my motivation was to try to win an award. And of course, everybody who knew me understood that didn't even enter into for a second.
Well, but maybe you heard last summer. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Last summer, Steve won the Disney Legends Award, and Mark gave a speech and brought that up. Maybe you'll want to tell him, Mark.
So 2 years ago, or when I knew that was happening, I was on a panel, and I said, and Lenny, who did the Ditko play, he was moderating, and he said, hey, Mark, I hear you have a speech being prepared for the Disney Legends. Would you like to read the draft? And I read it, and it was one of Uncle Steve's quotes. My uncle, Uncle Steve, said that how awards bleed the artists, and it was very hard hitting. So
wait, he wrote something that was hard hit? No.
So everybody I think we had 500 people there. They all like cheered, but I had a couple people come up to me after and go, "Whoa, like you really can't say that kind of a thing." So then, shortly before, a week or so before the Disney Legends things, Kevin Feige called me up, and he said, "Hey, Mark, I want to talk to you about, I think he was introducing me and stuff." And he said, I know your uncle didn't like things like this. He wasn't interested in things like this. And he said, I just want to make sure that that's said. So he specifically called me up to make sure that it was being said that he was not about awards. And I kind of massaged my speech, used a different quote anyway. But yeah, so he specifically called me up to make sure that that was known by everyone.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of brave of Disney.
Yeah. It just shows you how Kevin is pretty connected in terms of who Steve Ditko really was.
I think it really got out there. I mean, especially over the last decade or so. Somebody did a documentary that came out, and it was before he died, as I recall. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. And I think that really got a lot of people kind of taking a look at it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting thing. I remember watching that documentary going, wow. And I started reading soon after, reading about some guy put out a book of like my interaction with Ditko and how it was made. And it was like Steve replied to like 2 or 3 of his letters, and I don't want to denigrate the guy or anything like that.
I know.
It was like,
I know,
but I had to laugh at it because the entire book was really the antithesis of what Steve Ditko wanted out of things. And the guy's like, I love Spider-Man. I really wanted to meet the Spider-Man guy. And then Steve Ditko like basically wrote a letter back going, please leave me alone.
pretty much.
And that was the crux of the book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of felt bad for the guy, but I'm like, it's really neat. But this wasn't the book you really. He made it out to be this like, oh, this is the expose of.
Oh, I know.
Right.
I know him intimately better than anybody.
Yeah, and I changed his life, and he changed mine.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
It's just-
fans are an odd lot.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just sad. It's just sad that
And a lot of people who like love Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, when they come across Steve's more personal stuff like Mr. A or something, they go, fascist. And,
Oh yeah. Right.
I'm waiting for the first letter we get about Mr. A being racist because he's all white.
Of course. Well, fortunately, Vox and I would never be called racist or fascist. So,
of course
you're
not.
in a safe spot here. So,
Unthinkable.
yes, unthinkable. Now, guys, we are here to celebrate their new Indiegogo. Like I said, it's Heroes and Monsters. And so what went into choosing these 3 works to start out with, guys?
Well, I had commissioned this Mr. A comic in 1990 and wasn't able to put it out because, we were doing it in color. And the solicitation returns, the orders were horrible. And that was pre-Photoshop when it was like $1,000 a page to do color separations. So it's like, I can't afford this. I'm sorry. And
Wow.
so it's been sitting around for decades. And now we're finally putting that out in color.
Wait, hold on. This is an unpublished Mr. A comic book entirely?
Well, it was meant to be in color, and it'd be in color for the first time.
I think it's been
cool.
published in black and white.
Okay, gotcha.
Have you already printed the stuff?
Well, we have prototype copies, yeah. So
Okay.
we have all the books done. In fact, like this is the Mr. A #1, and
Okay.
Get you up here.
a lot of groovy colors, and and then we did a variant, which has got like a metallic foil cover. And all kinds of goofiness.
Very 90s, very 90s.
Exactly. If we had put it out in time, it would have made more sense back then. But kids love their variants.
They do. They absolutely do.
Well, if you eventually want to do an omnibus, let me know because we've got we've got access to some new technology that really makes the color go to the next level, and we just ran into it recently, and so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, cool.
Oh well, a collection is still coming. That is definitely still coming.
Well, if Arcaven can help you, we'd be delighted.
That'd be a blast. Yeah.
Okay.
But then I also figured, Ditko's were famous for monsters and horror. Right. So we did the what used to be Conga. I mean, the material was public domain, but The name Conga isn't, so we don't have his name on the cover. But all you got to do is like giant gorillas, you know. And and then the third book is Static, and again, superheroes. You know, the comic medium is mostly superheroes, so we thought that'd be a strong bet.
Gotta love Static.
It's a great character. Yeah, it's a fun series. Yeah, and then we also at the figured we ought to put out Avenging World,
the Bible.
Okay, John currently can't hear, so I'll take over for the time being till he gets his headphone working.
Yeah.
Box, do you know sign language?
Only a very few words, none of which are printable.
Yeah, it involves one particular digit.
Although, you know, because I speak Italian, you know, I do know how to talk with my hands. But but what's fascinating, you know, I'm just so you understand, I'm new to comics. I got into it accidentally. I'm much more of a, you know, literary guy. And so, but it's been really fascinating because one of the things that I did when we did end up getting into comics was Chuck Dixon kind of gave me a crash course on the history of it. And I went and watched all his videos talking about, you know, the older generations and everything. And it's been really fascinating to see, like, to learn about how things were done back then in terms of when, you know, the way that Steve Ditko would actually create the story through the art, as opposed to, you know, because we tend to begin with a script that's more like a movie script, you know, and then we give it to the artist and the dialogue's already done and all this sort of stuff. But correct me if I'm wrong, it was often done the other way around when your uncle was drawing it.
Yes, that's right.
And also, you know, it's a medium where like the text and the illustrations have to be symbiotic. Like if you just see the pictures, you go, okay, that's cool. Or if you just see the text, you go like, what? But when you see them together, boom.
Yeah. Do you think, would you agree? One of the things that, you know, Chuck and I have been working together. We've actually got 2 movies in development right now. Scripts that we wrote together. And one thing that we found that's really effective in talking to the various film production companies is the comics are almost like the seeds of a movie. And obviously Marvel with their MCU has been tremendously successful with that. You know, is that something that you think would be potentially of interest down the road for what you're building? Because you've obviously sitting on a bunch of material.
Now enter. Okay, so I have to say this. So when we were writing, we started to write back and forth probably around the late 80s, early 90s. And that's in early 90s when I started to go to comic conventions and kind of use my name, you know, to kind of have open doors and be able to see who I wanted to see. But I would write my uncle letters, very long letters, and we would write about family and what we were doing. But at one point, we write a lot about comics. And in the early 2000s, we started talking about, I started asking him what he wants to do with his characters. So he wrote me several letters. So we went back and forth for a while. I told him I have a friend who runs a post-production studio here in Los Angeles and is an Academy Award winner, Emmy Award winner, knows James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, all these guys. I said, what do you want me to do? So he started to write to me and send me things. Like he sent me a certain issue of Static, and he said, I want this to be on the big screen. He said, Missing Man, I want that to be an animated character. And he was telling me like the characters he created and where he wanted them to go. So I gave them to my friend, and unfortunately, I run my own business. I get caught up in life, and I just sort of pretty much dropped the ball. But, you know, I don't have a whole lot of regrets in life, but that was one that I feel like I regret not having done that for my uncle while he was alive. But here I am now trying to kind of pick up those pieces and get those things that he intended, that he wanted, to get those things done. So we have I have a personal list that he wrote to me that he wanted to do that is absolutely on my radar, and Static, Missing Man, and a bunch of others that he wanted to get into that media channels.
Right. Well, in the
Do you
90s,
do you still control the rights to them?
All the rights came down to the family.
So between you guys, you do.
There's basically 12 nieces and nephews that are the Ditko heirs, where all of those rights came down to.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
when I optioned Mr. A in the 90s, I wrote a TV pilot, and I shot a very short teaser for it. And you only saw like Mr. A's hand in his card. He was breaking up a mugging, and but he cast the White Shadow, and Steve liked it. He thought it was pretty fun. He wasn't so excited about the music, but I wish I had it. I have it on VHS somewhere, maybe in storage somewhere. I don't know.
Wow, that's a piece of history right there for sure. Interesting stuff.
So we do have intentions to have some of these characters have legs and take them wherever we can take them.
Well, if we get as you know, Chuck currently has the #1 movie in the country, or he did last week.
Not anymore, Vox. Minecraft has destroyed everything.
I said last week. I said last week.
What movie?
A Working Man.
I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, A Working Man is the adaptation. Sylvester Stallone did an adaptation of Levon's Trade. So, and we're coming out with we're going to be coming out with the graphic novels for that series, and we're also going to be putting his books in a trilogy of leather volumes. That if you look behind me, you can see that's really what I do.
Yeah, I mentioned that to you the other day, Mark. He's doing my most recent book in a leather-bound volume, and I'm just like, this is like, just to have a leather-bound book of your own stuff is definitely a flex. It's awesome. So, and
that's something that I want to take the material that we put out eventually into a much, much, much higher quality that really is deserving of my uncle. So that's something that really piques my interest, that kind of thing.
We do the absolute highest quality that exists. Honestly, in terms of paper, in terms of I mean, this is
this is his War and Peace that they just did a version of right here, and
it's Thailand. Where do you get it printed?
Yeah, this is stunning. So
where do we get it printed?
Yeah.
That's printed in the UK and bound in Switzerland.
Well,
so I live in Switzerland, so it's not quite as strange as it might sound. We literally put them together around the corner. So
nice.
Yeah. So at this stage, what we're trying to do, because we're kind of, I'll say, behind. We're trying to get as much material, like basically, cleaned up and done at a much higher quality level. We're trying to compile as much of that as possible, doing these, Indiegogos or Kickstarters, crowdfunding, to try to, get this stuff out. And then everything that we make is going to kind of go back into future projects. So eventually we want to kind of hit some crescendo to where we could start to do individual books and then compile them and do, bigger volumes, and just kind of, lead all this sort of remastered material into compilation books and higher quality stuff, and then we'll see where the legs take it.
Yeah.
Well, if you need some more volunteers, we've got a very. Are you familiar with Arctoons at all? Either of you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've seen.
I'm not.
So, John, do you want to show them Arctoons real quick?
Sure, I'll show you Arctoons. We did get you a backer real quick, so we popped you over the 2,000 mark. Thank you guys for supporting.
Oh, nice.
I'll put this up on my blog tomorrow. You'll
2010. That's my favorite movie sequel.
Yeah, you'll fund as soon as that goes up for sure.
You'll see it pop as soon as we put it on our site.
So this is Archaven, which I post my comics on here also through Archaven.
Have you
great
been
publisher.
animating Garrison?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We've got Chinese. We've got French. We've got. You
haven't got arrested yet for animating Stone Toss?
Well, that's one nice thing about living in Switzerland. But
Todd, you're showing off. You're a little too based. You're going to get in trouble here.
Oh, tell me about it. Well, I was waiting for this podcast to come out.
But I would love to. I would also, I would love to get some of your stuff up here. If you want to get visibility, we've got 6,500 episodes up here, 16 million views, and it's been very, very effective for us in terms of introducing brand new stuff. Like, for example, that Hypergamouse, which is like that little mouse comic. We just printed this. I just got these. 2 days ago, and it's all full color, all and you can see the size is pretty big too. They're like
Fox, does that have printing on the edges of the pages there too? Like,
yep,
that's cool. This is a new high quality trend in publishing is to have artwork kind of on the pages edges. It's kind of cool. I like that.
And also really do gold leaf anymore, like you just showed.
Yeah.
It's also got a like a history section. So we have like what the original thing was. So we're used to explaining the history of things, and we'd like to have more than just, oh, here's the comics. We like to have, hey, here's some text about the comics. Because the stuff that we're doing is all universally high end, and so if you're doing high end, then you need to give people top quality. Right. And I think that there'd be a lot of interest in the stuff that you're doing, because the stuff that you guys are doing, what we're doing is brand new and nobody's ever heard of it before because it's new. But what you're doing is historic and it's important.
Yeah, it's funny because Mort and I were just talking about that yesterday, about trying to add content based on sketches and backstory and what is this character, kind of like I wanted to do sort of the DC who's who of his characters. Cool. A book about who his characters are, describing each of the characters, little bio sheets and things that haven't been done that would help clarify some of the things that he did independently and and with others.
Yeah, Mark also wanted to do a collection of Steve's essays.
Yeah,
because he wrote a lot of stuff, and that is also
I love those essays.
Yeah,
that is also
we do a lot of essay stuff. One of my favorite books that we ever published is a collection of John C. Wright's essays called Transhuman or Posthuman, and I'm a text guy. Obviously
on Charlie Kirk all the time.
No. John C. Wright is
a book called Transhuman, and I remember that was pushed a few months ago.
Yeah, definitely not John C. Wright's, unfortunately. John is one of the best. He's actually kind of similar to Steve Ditko in a way, in that he's one of the very best, and people don't realize how significant his stuff is.
He's absolutely incredible, and it's just with John, I think it's a matter of marketing, right? That's very, that's the same thing. Obviously, I feel like Steve shunned marketing versus John just doesn't have the capacity for it.
Yeah, well, once he grew it, and printed it,
and I'll say this, and other people I know who have approached him relative to the marketing thing, and he was a division of labor guy. He did the art. That was not his area. He had handed that over to Robin Snyder. So that he relinquished that role, and so he could keep his head down at his desk and draw what he wanted to do and create, the comics. So it wasn't that he didn't believe in it. It's just that was, he thought outside of his role.
Discipline. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And gosh, I wish I would have been a few years older, because I love marketing. And I would have, but I'll be there for you guys. So,
and you know what? And that's what I kind of feel like I want to bring to the table, and probably wish I would have 20 years ago. I don't know that I would have taken to develop that relationship with him so that I could have helped him do that stuff. But clearly, in my opinion, that's what made the distribution and his awareness go down. Is he never really had the appropriate level of marketing.
Well, and wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't an amount of Stan Lee's persona essentially a marketing construct? I mean, obviously he did a lot of stuff, but I never got the impression that he actually did quite as much stuff as it was you assumed from the outside, because before I got into comics at all, I knew nothing about it. And I just assumed, oh, Stan Lee wrote all this stuff.
Yeah,
and
like
then
Stan Lee Presents was on every friggin' comic book, whether, even when he wasn't, he's living in California and never saw a single book, so.
Right. Well, that's normal. I mean, John and I have been messing around with using AI for some stuff, and it's kind of funny because it's exactly how John, what's his name, James Patterson publishes 30 books a year. He doesn't write them.
Hillary Clinton help him writing or whatever, didn't they?
No, Fox, you're right. That Stan's role, in my opinion, and from reading all of my uncle's essays, which my uncle wrote some very, very, very specific essays about Stan and the relationship during the Spider-Man, his comic histories. He wrote 60 pages of essays on the history of how what it was like to develop through the Spider-Man years. So, that is really true. And I have come to adopt that same point of view, is that Stan was more of the marketing person. In fact, when you really look at my uncle's essays, the ideas that Stan had, my uncle rejected, so
well,
even
and the thing that people, I think, should understand is that that's not a criticism. The reason things become successful is not just because they're created and they're great.
Yeah.
Because people don't just magically discover that it exists. You need a way to cut through all the nonsense and all the stuff that's going on. Now, of course, there's a poisonous aspect to it as well, because you've got the people that are nothing but marketing.
Right.
You read their stuff and they have 50 blurbs all telling you how great it is, and then you look at it and you're like, this sucks.
Right.
But I'll tell you where I think the relationship went really weird, was because we did in 2019, I think, maybe it was 2021, we did the Steve Ditko exhibit in Johnstown. We had it open for probably 2.5 months. It ended in the first Ditko Con. I had people come in from Johnstown, his hometown, and say, "You mean Stan Lee didn't draw this stuff?" They had no idea,
Yeah.
So that's where I think his marketing, his visibility, really, I'd say, hurt his integrity, of that he's not really telling the truth as far as who's really responsible for certain aspects of that work. He didn't have any fear of taking it on.
I remember seeing him on Carson, and Stan took all the credit. It wasn't drawn by somebody; he created it.
Pictures of him at the drawing table,
Right.
photo ops.
I gotta say, when I was a kid, I liked Stan's patter, like in the Marvel bullpen, his soapbox, and also Forrest Ackerman, who was editing Famous Monsters. They had a repertoire, or that's not the word. They could relate with the readers, and the readers thought they were part of a family, And,
which again is a real skill, and it's an important one, and that's why for me, I think it's important not to just pile on things. It's important to point out the truth. But it's also important to respect the things that are legitimate accomplishments.
And that are also true. Yeah.
And that are also true. But by the way, if you have a collection of his essays, I will absolutely publish them, and get them out there. And if it's more than 300 pages, I will absolutely put them in leather.
You know what? Seriously, we need to talk about that, because I think I'm missing like maybe 5 or 6 out of hundreds. So but I have
how many words? How many words total? Roughly, or pages?
You don't have
Couldn't
them.
even guess.
You have them in actual pages, not in Word.
I have them in all different formats, from
Okay.
PDFs to paper to
Okay, well,
scan.
I told you
to,
with
I mean, that's the
no
problem.
CR.
Vox, I'm going to volunteer on this to
get me his details and we'll work it out.
I'd love to have some help with that.
I will act as editor and format this too. I'm happy to do this. So
John knows not to trust me to do the editing.
yes, Vox has been sitting on my book since when? How long is it now?
It's only been 2 years.
Hey, we're going back to the campaign. One of the things that we are really,
Yes.
really aggressively shooting for, realizing that we're kind of behind, is for his centennial.
Right.
That's really one of the things that we're trying to drive hard on right now and try to get as much out as we can for his 100th. Which
When is that?
Is really November 2027.
That's close.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we only have a few years, but we're pushing hard to start to get as much as we can out. So we have a pretty big lineup, but we're just going all in, fifth gear, high RPMs.
Pretty good. Went from 46 to 50 backers and over $100 so far on the stream. So excellent.
Well, we just did a 25th anniversary book. We did 4 different editions of a 25th anniversary book for a English football team that we sponsor. And we're the back of the shirt sponsor for them.
Huh.
And it's been really popular. It's done really well. We did like a special managers edition where the manager wrote the introduction and it's his picture on the front. And then, but it's we would absolutely love to be a part of that in any way that you'd like us to help.
Well, let's continue this conversation.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so
let me-
let's talk about their project a little bit, and because
Yes.
so people get to know about this. So there are 4 different comic books that you guys are presenting in full color for the first time, correct? Well, I think yes,
Avenging World we're keeping in black and white.
Avenging World we're keeping in black and white because it was intended
For now,
to be that way.
I started coloring it.
Yeah.
myself.
He did one panel of a hippie.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. And so what? So we've got Mr. A, and so if you guys are not familiar, we have not introduced this very well at all. Steve Ditko really was the co-creator of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, maybe creator by himself. We could maybe push it that far.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just didn't know this because of Stan Lee's marketing of everything, pretty much for decades. And he left Marvel very, very quickly after a couple of years.
Let me just interrupt for a second, because what would happen with Steve and other artists is that Stan would come up with like a paragraph for the whole book,
right,
and give it to him and go, "Okay, do 22 pages."
Yeah, that's what I told. That's what I told my AI machine to do. 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. And so then he gets the art, does the dialogue and stuff, and so Steve was the co-plotter. He was pacing the thing. He was like the director of the film.
Right.
He's established shots, mood, the way the actors looked and all that stuff. So, I think that added to the problems he was having and with Stan. And it was like late in the run, he finally gave Steve a co-plotting credit. And I think that really burned Stan.
That still didn't work out from that point. He eventually left. He was working with Charlton Comics, doing some stuff in the 60s, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
That's where you might recognize a couple characters like the Blue Beetle or
Captain Adam.
A huge one.
Yeah,
and
basically the Watchman.
Right, the Watchman,
Or
which
ripped
then
them all up.
Alan Moore stole also. In fact, Alan Moore originally wanted to use these characters. DC told him no, that's why the Watchmen exists.
Because, he wanted to kill them or have them rape people and stuff.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But in fairness, though, I think that first of all, I think that is actually a sincere form of flattery.
It is. Yes.
I mean, even the
choice.
but I'm just saying, even the desire to subvert. You don't try to subvert something that's not worthwhile. Yeah. And also the way that it backfired on, him, and the one character became a hero to everyone. Yeah. I mean, I post memes quoting that,
You're trapped in here with me.
Yeah.
I mean, the best one is the one with the husky puppy. It's like this little husky puppy with the craziest eyes you've ever seen. But I will post that meme at the drop of a hat. My wife is so sick of it.
And the question, of course, which that developed for a little bit, and then he struck out on his own and started developing his own independent properties, which he did a lot through Wally Wood's Wits End, which oh my gosh, and the thing is that the best part is I really didn't know much about Wally Wood or anything like that. When I went through the Steve Ditko sort of rabbit hole and I started reading Wits End and seeing all the other art that's there too. I mean, oh my God. It is some of the best comic books of all time, just way out there artistry that you just don't get anywhere else.
Well, everyone had respect for Wally. So
right.
Yeah, they would love to.
But he also did a big thing, and you can get a volume of this too, which I really recommend. Maybe some of Ditko's best work was done for the Creepy and Eerie stuff right there. And there is a volume of just his art from it that was all edited by Archie Goodwin, and written by Archie Goodwin also. Yes,
a lot of times,
a lot of it was. Yeah. And that work, I mean, he really just put his all into that in a way that.
The black and white wash he did was incredible.
It's crazy.
What's funny is because, like, when he was at Cracked, we printed in black and white and stuff. And every story he did, he used a different medium, whether it was craft tint paper or a wash, or he just do mixed media, because a lot of people thought it was limiting to do black and white. But, oh, boy, did he expand what you can do in black and white. It was great stuff.
Really innovative and doesn't get enough credit for it, really. I mean, it's really out of control.
I wrote to him about the Creepy and Eerie stuff, and I was like, Uncle Steve, I loved your wash stuff. He goes, yeah, I was just experimenting and playing around.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just trying something different, he said.
That's what he always does. He always tries something different. And even up until his later years, he was always still just messing around, trying stuff different. A true artist, guys. And so that's what these 4 books represent, really, because you've got his monsters, which is that Conga and Gordo, which are King Kong and Godzilla type stuff
with Conga, because I had like black and white stats from Conga, so that I could color them. In the future, we're gonna have to scan some books and clean them up. Original comics, So
if you like those kaiju stories, that's what's there. And those are mostly written by.
I was thinking of putting out a series of both with Conga and Gorgo in the same book after this.
You guys, you did the Gorgo stuff.
Ditko did.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did a song about it. we did a it was a remake, a harder rock remake of the Godzilla song by Blue Oyster Cult.
Nice.
Awesome.
We're going to put out.
I was thinking, I know that name.
We're going to put out like a 48-page book called King Size Fantastic Giants.
Nice.
And that will have Gorgo and Congo.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So,
and then, of course, a trade paperback.
We've got that. We've got Mr. Ray.
And we do have Gorgo on Archaven, by the way.
Okay,
on
cool.
Arctunes.
You've got the actual song on there? Excellent.
So.
We got the Mr. A in here. So Mr. A came after the question and is like the question on steroids. Is if you're a question fan, Mr. A is just the next level of awesome on that level.
For people that aren't familiar with Mr. A, obviously he's in all white, but he wears this metal mask. So he's intimidating. And also look at those knuckles. He's got some white brass knuckles and stuff. So.
Right. And this was controversial when it was dropping because he was a character who, if you did evil, he said, fine, you deserve to die. And that always bugged me about superheroes is like the lack of morality that is insanity that you read and really the only reason they have this morality was we don't want the Joker to die because we want to bring him back next week. Right.
And he did die in the first story, and then they changed the last
They-
panel.
They have to bring them back because it sells, and that's it. And they wanted to bring back these villains over and over and recur them and just preserve the IP. Well, when you're doing your own artistry like this, you don't need to do that, and it doesn't make any sense for somebody who is dealing with rapists and murderers and drug dealers and things like that to just go out there and go, oh, I'm gonna just beat them up until the brink of death, but I will not kill.
Right.
It's like it's
Well, and not only that, but look at
Right.
Owen Benjamin did a fantastic bit on how Batman is actually worse in some ways than the Joker, and but he made a surprisingly good case. And he's not talking about the comics here; he's talking about the Batman Begins movie,
right.
and he points out how Batman won't kill the Joker and all these people that have murdered people and that sort of thing, but he murders.
It's got machine guns on it and stuff.
But he kills all of his friends because he won't kill the murderer.
Right.
Right.
In the movie, they're like, you have to kill you need to kill this murderer. He's like, no, I'm just going to kill 37 of you instead. I'm
Right.
like, how is that better?
Right.
What moral
I'll tell you,
compass?
when Mr. A came out in like 67, there were a lot of Doctor Strange hippie Ditko fans going like, dude, this guy must be on LSD because the art is so trippy. And then they'd see Mr. A and go like, he's a fascist.
Hey, John, I got to say, you have some good attendees. I mean, quoting Alan Moore's song on Mr. A and talking about Funky Flashman. And there's you got some good, good attendees.
We've got I've cultivated the real ones here. And this is why we have the best
I
audience.
like your chat going on.
This is a good chat.
You got some
I did notice someone asked who owns the IP of Mr. A. Would you like to answer that, Mark?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it all came down to the family. All of his characters did. I mean, I'll just say he didn't have a will. So everything just came down to the siblings. And then the siblings, that basically it's all the families.
But
Cool.
do you guys have a way of making decisions, or is it just throw it out there to the committee every single time?
No, we are making decisions and moving forward.
The reason I ask is because I worked with Jerry Pornell, and after he died, it became a little bit more difficult just because there's kind of competing interests within the family.
Too many cooks.
You know what? I'll just say this: decisions are being made, and we are doing things. Cool.
Excellent. That's good news.
So that's two of them. And then let's see. We get into Static. This character came out in the 80s in Robin Snyder's what was the name of this? Revolver.
First Charlton.
Revolver.
No, it was in Charlton.
Really, it's in Charlton Action first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Continue. You introduce it better then. Okay.
It went to Revolver and
Yeah. The first two were Charlton.
I've got the Revolver issues.
Charlton Action is
Charlton Action, and this is a character that ends up in it's kind of science experiment kind of thing. It really reminds me a little bit of Speedball, a character he also developed with Tom DeFalco.
Yeah,
I remember when Speedball came out, I was like, "What does he have? The power to kill Belushi?"
And very similar, except for this one where Speedball again is a young child, kind of like finding his way in the world and has that sort of very Marvel coming of age ethos to him. Static is again just an objectivist who just does not take prisoners, and so. Really cool stuff on that.
When I was coloring it, a lot of the panels look like Spider-Man because he uses like a static charge to grab a hold of something and swing around and stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, I haven't seen that in a while.
Cool stuff right there. Really enjoyable. And Killjoy's also a part of this, guys.
I love
Killjoy's a great character too. Definitely recommend that one. Like I said, this is my favorite of all of his creations right here. And then Avenging World.
You should see the cover that we're going to have on that Static one, the alternate cover.
The alternate cover is Where do I get to the alternate cover?
Yeah, it's right there below, right where you're scrolling up.
Ah,
There's a little
I scrolled
image.
over it.
Keep
Go
going up right
Yeah,
there. Oh yeah.
Oh, there it is. I see it. The holofoil right there.
Yeah.
Cool.
So when you move it around, like the video below shows how, it's
Yeah.
not with static on it, but it shows you how the halo works, and it's pretty.
Okay,
cool.
let's look at this. All right. Oh, I see it. That's sweet.
Yeah. And I figured that was appropriate for static.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Cool. Have you guys ever given any thought to creating new stuff with it? I mean, I'm listening to you talk about Mr.
No
A.
comment.
Well, the reason I ask is that I listened to you talk about Mr. A and Static, and you sound exactly like Chuck Dixon complaining about the way that there's no consequences in the Marvel and DC universes.
Right.
When we've got one of the it's not a secret. One of the films that we've optioned is a new character and a new comic that we've created called Black Warrant, and he's basically Warrant. And so he's basically like the Punisher on steroids. And Chuck has just done, the story is fantastic. And it's already been optioned. In fact, we haven't even published the comic or done the Kickstarter for it yet. And it's already been optioned for a film.
Yeah.
And so, but one of the things that he said when he first started working with us at Archaven was, he said, you need to be okay with me killing off characters, and you need to be okay with there being consequences to things. And I said, I don't know anything about comics, so I think you should do whatever you want. And but I was just thinking, you could really, I mean, can you imagine like Chuck doing something with like one of these characters? It'd be
You
interesting.
might have been reading my mind.
Really
but
cool.
Like I said, no comment.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it's.
I couldn't think of a better writer to, kind of follow in Steve's footsteps. And Chuck.
Right now, the focus in this first phase is to get remastered, all of his stuff remastered, and in a condition like a new, kind of newly out there. But we have people. I have had many people come up to me about future projects. So we're taking this like right now, one step at a time. This is our entrance. I don't know how fast things will move from there, but right now, we're on a remaster.
I wouldn't imagine we do any new stuff before 2027.
Yeah, I just encourage you to hold out for the best.
Yeah.
And here's we're doing pretty good so far. We've done over $200, and
thank you.
Looks like 6 backers so far. So thank you, chat, for
if you want
to
play that video at the top there. That's the Mr. A video.
Excellent. I'll do that. And I think I've got it so sound's on, but let me mute because I don't have headphones because they were having a technical difficulty. So let me try to mute myself here and make this work.
Recognize that? Yeah, the audio's off.
Oh, shoot. Let me grab that.
That look familiar?
Audio Jungle.
SOS.
Audio Jungle.
Wild,
Cool,
huh?
guys. Very cool. Love
And
it.
also for this series, Steve did something he never did with Mr. A before, was having supervillains.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because it was very much the villains were mobsters or corrupt
Level, yeah.
people, like very, very much like nobody with superpowers or anything like that.
Government gangsters.
So, what was the story behind how this all came about? Since you worked on this with him,
Right. Well, I was working with him at Cracked and everything. And when I left Cracked, I started a small line of comics. And so I commissioned him to do a mini series. And then, like I said, it was, I just couldn't afford to put it out because direct sales were just pathetic.
man, that's really sad on that level.
Because like I would have been, had to pay $36,000 for separations plus what I paid Steve for writing and drawing. So, there's no way I could have made that back. And especially as like a, 27-year-old little jerk.
Now, so he did 3 full issues for you.
Yeah, it was
before all
going to
this?
be 5 issues.
Wow.
And yeah, and including his origin in the 5th issue.
Oh,
And
wow, really?
I know,
Oh, my
right? And he
gosh.
wouldn't tell me what it was.
Oh,
He-
no.
Yeah, he said you have to wait. And so, he had already drawn 3.5 issues by the time we, solicited the first and had to kill it. So, he, like I said, he did 3.5. So we had the first issue is 48 pages and the others are 32. So,
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Mark, did you ever hear about the origin? Did it ever get written down, or is it it's still a
Nope.
mystery?
You
So-
know what? Zach Cruzy wrote the Steve Ditko Mysterious Travelers book.
I got that book. Yep.
So, to me, I gotta say, the best book on who he is that's out there. Well, he is he's been going through, because we went out when he passed away. My dad and I and my brother Patrick, went out to collect everything from his studio and from his apartment. So we have everything at our house, and I took his library, which is what's here behind me, his personal library. But Zach has been coming out to my house and to Johnstown and cataloging everything that we have there from his. So he's still, this is an ongoing project. So who knows what is still in these files that we may uncover on notes on things like that.
And these are all just paper files, like everything's just stacked in stacks of paper.
Yeah, they were just file folders.
Wow.
That he had just files and files and files of stuff. So that's all still being gone through.
Yes.
I see some comments about the video and people like it, but they also said like, ooh, good use of Holtz from Mars, the bringer of war from the planets.
The Harbinger says that was an awesome trailer. Grok Comics says video is great. Silent Draco says very cool trailer, and also adds great use of Holst, Mars from the planets.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Awesome vibe, says Fractal Chris, and yes, and
talking about the ugly
positive reactions.
But yeah, what happened is because we were talking about the TV show and the promo video. I was saying like, I thought it'd be kind of cool to have like a jazzy Peter Gunn kind of soundtrack and stuff. And he was like, no, jazz is discordant. You need to use classical music. And I'm like, okay.
It's order versus disordered, good versus
Exactly.
evil. There is no in between, Morris.
Right.
By the way, something that you might want to consider is doing a second crowdfund, exactly the same thing, but on a different site, because there's been a bit of a bifurcation of the crowdfunding people. Like, for example, we have a very significant following, but they don't use Indiegogo anymore because we ran into a conflict with them a couple of years ago, and ended up having to deal with them through a arbitration system, quite successfully, I might add.
Okay.
But But you might want to. What I think you'll find is that you'll do maybe anywhere between 30 to 100% better if you do two.
Vox, you're not the first person who's told us that.
Yeah.
And Mort mentioned it early on anyway.
Yeah, they say don't do it simultaneously.
I actually went to see if I could back it, and I'm still banned there.
Oh,
I have found a way to circumvent my ban on that level. So I'm also banned on Indiegogo. So.
Bad people, you're bad. People.
I think a lot of our backers are banned there.
Well, I used to use Kickstarter, and because I did this imprint called Charlton Neo for about 10 years, and I would always use Kickstarter, but it seemed like comics sold better. The campaigns went better on Indiegogo, so this is the first time we're trying that, and boy, are there a few bugs.
Yeah.
Have a look at this place called Fund My Comic. I did a very
heard about that too.
Yeah, Jeff's doing his Al Capone vampire.
Yeah, that's right. It's awesome.
They're really cool people. They're very helpful.
Fundmycomic.com.
Yeah, I did a little crowdfund, just a very small one for my AI music album, and it went. I hit my goal, got everything that I needed to do to. Basically, I just wanted to pay for a professional engineer to master the stuff.
And I ran up $25K on there for my last campaign. So
at Kickstarter,
yeah.
At Fund My Comic.
Yeah.
Oh, Fund My Comic. Yeah. That looks like it's worth looking into.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks so much for being here. And do you have anything else to say about this? I think the next segment is probably going to be a weird AI talk that we're going to have to go into here. And so I'll let you guys go. But yes,
again, with the comments here, I just saw that
in
search of Ditko documentary, Alan Moore said that he met Ditko and that he had a stack of unpublished Strange. No. And also the rumor went around that he would use the back of original art for cutting stuff, and I'm like, no.
That was fake too. Yeah, and I had Tom DeFalco on a couple years back also. Love Tom DeFalco. Nice guy. And he talked about just working with him on Speedball and the like, and he dispelled the rumor pretty quickly because the other big rumor is that he was like some kind of recluse or whatever,
totally.
which is a total horse shit also. Pardon my French on that. And it's just like because he didn't want to deal with the whole fandom thing.
Soon after Steve passed away, I heard from artist Frank McLaughlin, who inked him at Charlton, was art director there, and was an inker at DC and all that. And he called me because he was like, I hate all this stuff about what they're saying about Steve, that he was a hermit recluse and stuff like that. And, so I did like a hour-and-a-half interview that I'm still haven't finished editing, but I'm going to premiere it at the Ditko Con in September, I guess.
I'm really going to have to try to go to that. So, yeah.
And you know what? The one thing I'll say is somebody made a comment. I'll just kind of say a word there. It's like, was he a private person? And I think that's probably more what's true is as an artist, what does an artist do? He puts his head down at his drawing board and he draws. What does a writer do? He needs to be sitting down and writing. And he, as I'll say, first generation American. I mean, really, that's the way I see my dad and my mom, and that they were from, hail from Slovakian farmers. Both my grandparents on both of my sides pretty much came either over from Slovakia as little kids or across, when they were older. But he just had a work ethic, and the work ethic was, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a showman. I'm going to put my head down, and I'm going to work, and I'm going to earn a living and be a pro at it and be the best I can. So that's pretty much who he was. And that's the way my parents were. And that's the way my aunts and uncles were. They weren't celebrities. They didn't see themselves that way. They're very humble people. And all they did was wanted to be the best that they could be at what they did. And that's what he did. and that's where he was. And in terms of being private, I would say yes. And he did say over and over again, let his work speak first. That's who he is. He's his work. Did he have friends? Yes. Did he have family? Yes. Did people love him? Yes. Did he engage? Yes. But he spent his time working.
Well, it's hard. It's hard for people of the young.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
They're all those stories of like fans trying to visit and getting the door slammed in their face and everything. And I think it was because Steve was working.
Yeah.
And he couldn't take time out of the blue.
Well, I mean, showing up at somebody's house is pretty crazy anyway.
In volume, probably too.
Right.
The first time I called him about doing some work, boom, he was in my office in 15 minutes, and he would come by at least once a week and we'd just talk for hours about everything. So,
yeah, well, it's hard for the younger generation where everybody's, showing off their new underwear on. It's hard for them to understand why you wouldn't just expose your soul to everyone who asks. And I mean, I've had people try to come to my house and that sort of thing, which is a horrifically bad idea. Considering
Sorry about that, Fox, by the way.
we have 5. I'm not telling people to stay away from the house because, I'm going to be terribly upset. I don't want to come out there and find my 5 Ridgebacks eating someone.
But if you do, get it on a TikTok video.
Exactly.
We did have Merg Magoraximus send a super chat. Thank you for that, saying I'd be down for a Mr. A omnibus.
Yes.
I think we all want this.
Yes.
So yes. And I will 100% spring for a leather-bound edition of that too.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, hey, John, thank you for having us on. Really
no problem.
appreciate
So
it.
this is it, guys. It's in the description here. I'll put it in the chat one more time. We have 8 backers so far. I know Vox said he'll blog it also, which is going to do wonders. And then what I'll do is I'll circle with you guys for email, and I'll do like a 10 question, like sort of written interview for Fandom Pulse also, which has a 4,000 subscriber base, and we'll get this over. We'll get this over the 3,000, no problem.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Where would do you archive these videos? You have them on?
Yeah, this will be up on YouTube and on Unauthorized TV.
Okay, because I definitely want to share that.
We have our own streaming channel, so we put it up there as well as YouTube.
Correct. Yeah.
And is it archiving on YouTube?
Unauthorized TV. Yeah, but yes, or it's John Delarose on YouTube. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Vox, it was nice meeting you and nice chatting.
Cool. Oh yeah.
We'll be in touch.
Thanks for being here, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for all this. I think it's really going to make an impression. What we did.
Awesome.
All right,
work,
thanks, guys.
God bless you guys and Godspeed.
All right.
Take care.
Wow.
I like those guys.
Those guys are amazing. Yeah. So it's such cool stuff, and I'm very, very happy they're doing this. And this we just need to get the word more out here on this kind of thing, guys, because this is the whole challenge with everything, right? Is just getting the word out because there's the work's there. Yeah.
Can you take me off for a minute? I need to go make a coffee.
Okay, go make a coffee. I'll just talk. What's up, guys? They're still in the back. You guys are still here.
I am.
I'm just reading the chat.
You don't have.
We don't want to miss a second.
You don't have to leave. I just assume
we want to
get
see
bored.
if Vox's coffee comes out.
You want to say we could focus on his chair.
You mean
pretty
throne?
nice chair?
That's a throne.
That is a really nice chair.
It is a really nice chair and a really nice library right there too. Yes. No, you don't have to leave. I just assumed you wouldn't want to hear us going, being dorks about AI stuff. So
no, I actually do need to get back to work.
Excellent.
But, so yeah, eventually I will drop off here. I just wanted to read a little bit of this chat.
Yeah, no problem. All right, guys.
Okay.
Again, a beautiful T-shirt there, and love it. Who is John Galt? Indeed. We'll see you guys soon.
My old username on Reddit was "Who is Steve Ditko?"
Oh, nice. I like that. That's a good username. I'm banned on Reddit, sadly, but
I left after
just the thing.
Donald.
All right, see you guys.
All right.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny stuff. Back to the chair, my friends. Back to the chair. No, I'll come on the screen. Yeah, this is cool. I'm really excited about this. And I actually didn't know that there was an additional Mr. A Lost Adventures thing. I have a whole short box of Steve Ditko work for his independent stuff that is just out there and stuff that I've never seen before. And a lot of people have not seen before. I thought about cataloging it and doing commentary on it and things like that. But there's very little audience for that. But this is really cool. I'm so excited to find a new story of Steve Ditko that I have not read yet. That's kind of wild on that level for me. So good stuff. We are having quite a day today, guys. I don't know if you've been trailing and following Fandom Pulse right here. But we've been talking a lot about AI, art, and writing and the like. And it's been interesting times, to say the least. I've got a new friend, Vox. Well, I don't know if I'd call him a friend. I might call him not doesn't
Claude.
like me that much guy. It's not Claude. It's actually Larry.
Larry. Okay.
Yeah. And so I asked Larry what he thought of me, Vox.
Okay.
And he said, look, here's the thing about John Delarose. That guy makes himself the center of every controversy pretty much everywhere he goes. He's got this whole I'm the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction shtick while picking fights with basically everyone in the industry. Do I agree with him sometimes? Sure. The traditional publishing world and their little cliques have their heads so far up their own asses, they need windows in their stomachs to see where they're going. But there's a difference between calling out genuine bullshit and just stirring the pot for attention, Vox. The problem with guys like John is they don't know when to shut the hell up and just write. At the end, that was my favorite line out of this one. At the end of the day, this business is about entertaining readers, not winning internet arguments. Your books have to be good enough that people want to buy the next one. That's the job. I've been in this business long enough to know that guys who spend more time on Twitter beefs than actually writing don't last. The market doesn't give a shit about your hot takes. It cares if you can tell a good story. So my advice, less drama, more writing. But hey, I'm just some guy who pays his mortgage with monster stories. What do I know?
Well, first of all, that's actually too soft on you to be the real Larry. Honestly, he would actually be much harsher on you.
He would be way meaner. And that's the problem with AI, right? So
and also I'd be pretty shocked if Larry still has a mortgage.
Oh, for sure he doesn't.
If he's still got a mortgage, he's not handling things right.
But I asked Larry about Vox Day too. So
I'm sure he sang my praises.
I'm not getting bogged down in the Vox Day circus. And I'll tell you straight up why. That guy has made his career out of being professionally controversial. He says outrageous shit. People react. Then he plays the victim while selling books to his followers.
I have never played the victim in my life.
It's not.
They're all like, you're pure evil. I'm like, that's right. I'm the fucking Dark Lord.
That's right. This is what the Larry AI thinks. It's not me. It's a business model old as dirt. Look, I've been around the block in this industry. I've seen flame wars come and go. The thing most readers don't understand is 90% of this crap is just marketing. Controversial figure says controversial things, gets attention, sells books to people who either love him for speaking truth or hate buy to see what his fuss is about. You want my honest take? The best anything could do with the provocateurs is focus on your own damn work. There's a theme here I'm seeing. You write good books that entertain people. You build a fan base that likes what you do, and you keep delivering. That's the job. Everything else is just noise. There you go. I've had my share of industry fights when principal. His fights are good, though, or steak. But I'd rather be known for my actual books than to be who I feuded with on the internet. At the end of the day, readers remember Monster Hunter, not who I called a dumbass on Twitter 10 years ago. So what do I think about Vox Day? I think talking about him is exactly what he wants, and I'm going to go write books instead.
Actually, that conclusion is pretty much Larry's position, which I respect.
What do you think about Steve Ditko, Larry?
It'd be funny if he does the same thing.
Right? Listen, Ditko was one of the all-time greats. No question about it. The man created Spider-Man, Stan Lee, for crying out loud, and Doctor Strange. Those weren't just characters. They were revolutionary visual storytelling that changed comics forever. The thing about Ditko that doesn't get enough respect is how the guy stuck to his principles. Yeah, interesting. So he walked away from Marvel when he was at the top of his game. He wouldn't compromise his visions or beliefs. In an industry where most creators would sell their grandmother for a chance to work for a flagship title, Ditko said nope and went his own way. His objectivist stuff with Mr. A and The Question, that guy was creating exactly what he believed in without watering it down for mass consumption. You don't have to agree with his Ayn Rand philosophy to respect that kind of artistic integrity. And his art style, nobody drew like Ditko. Those weird dimensions in Doctor Strange, the way Spider-Man moved, those distinctive hands, the guy had a visual fingerprint you could recognize from a mile away. That's craftsmanship. That's mastery of the medium. The comics industry is full of people who chase trends and paychecks. Ditko chased his own vision, and consequences be damned. In a world of corporate yes men, we'd use more stubborn bastards like Steve Ditko who know exactly what they stand for.
You know what the only problem with
Wow.
this is?
What's
You know
that?
the only problem with this? I mean, that's really good.
It's really
and,
good.
and I suspect that that's actually pretty much what Larry would say about Steve Ditko
Right.
if he had any idea who
Who
Steve Ditko was.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
There's no chance he does. Okay, now here's the interesting one.
Right.
Tell us the truth, Larry. Did you really want to win a Hugo Award in 2013 when you ran the Sad Puppies campaign?
This is really interesting. Okay.
I'm curious. I have no idea what it'll come up with.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
That is exactly what you would say.
This is Larry exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. This has him down.
Wow.
Here we go again with the Hugo narrative. This is exactly how he would start this. 100%.
Let me set this straight once and for all.
Did I want to win a Hugo? Sure. Who wouldn't? Any author who says they don't care about awards is probably lying, but that's not what the Sad Puppies was about. Not even close. What I wanted to expose was the system. The Hugos had become this ridiculous circle jerk with the same wow, he rants for a lot longer on this one.
Yeah, this is actually more real, Larry.
That's right.
But it's actually here now. Here's an interesting one.
Uh-huh.
Have him say, why did you think it was necessary to split the Sad Puppies up into the Sad Puppies and the Rabid Puppies?
Split.
I know the answer, the real answer, but I'm just curious to see what AI can come up with. No, why did you, or why, whatever, that's fine.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, he loves that line. This is exactly the kind of revisionist bullshit that gets spread around. Let me set the record straight. These are the lines that are getting repeated. This is what it thinks of Larry is, oh, for fuck's sake, and let me set the record straight. Those are like his tells, I guess. Because apparently the basic facts are too complicated for the internet. Sad Puppies and Rabid Puppies are never the same thing. We didn't split up jack shit. They were always two completely separate campaigns run by two completely separate people with completely different goals. Sad Puppies was my thing originally, then Brad Torgerson, then Kate Palks. It was Kate Palks?
Yeah, Kate Palk.
Oh.
That's actually correct.
Huh.
That's completely correct.
I thought it was Sarah.
No, it was Sarah, but Kate Palk was also kind of like, it was kind of Sarah and Kate together.
Okay. We were pointing out the obvious political bias in the Hugo Awards trying to get nominated. Vox Day decided to run his own thing called Rabid Puppies. Same basic concept with his own slate. He didn't ask permission. He didn't coordinate with us. He just did his own thing. That's it. But the media and WorldCon types deliberately conflated the two because it was easier to paint everyone with the same extremist monster than to address the actual criticism. And they cherry-picked the most outrageous shit from Vox's crowd and pretended like I was responsible for it. It was a convenient narrative. Oh, look, those Sad Puppies are a bunch of bigots. Meanwhile, our actual slate was diverse as hell. This does sound like Larry, with authors of all backgrounds who just happened to write entertaining stories instead of grievance literature.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it got the public line correct.
Right.
I was just curious to see how deep it could go.
Right.
Because it works on pattern recognition. It sometimes comes up with stuff that people don't realize.
Right.
Is actually out there.
It wasn't anything interesting though.
Okay. Try this one. Try this one now. Was Vox Day's involvement in the Hugo Awards an attempt to win one?
For himself.
For himself, yeah.
Yeah. Get this prompt. Listen, I'm not a mind reader, and I don't pretend to know what's going on in Vox Day's head, but I'll tell you what I do know. Vox's whole Rabid Puppies thing wasn't about winning an award for himself. Guy's not stupid. He know damn well that the WorldCon crowd would never give him a Hugo no matter what. Hell, they had already expelled him from SIFWA before this started. Vox was doing the burning the whole thing down, pure chaos. He wanted to expose the hypocrisy of the system and watch them twist them into knots. And guess what? It worked exactly as he was planned. When they no awarded entire categories just to spite the nominees, they proved our point better than we ever could. They showed rather than destroy their own awards than they'd rather destroy their own kind of awards than let the wrong kind of authors win. Vox knew they'd do that. He was playing chess while they were playing checkers. Did he put himself on the ballot? Yeah, but it wasn't to win. It was to prove a point. The guy's got his own publishing house and his own audience. He doesn't need a rocket-shaped paperweight validation. This is what the outsiders don't get about the whole mess. It wasn't about the trophies. It was about exposing the system that claimed to be about merit, but was really about politics and who you knew. And that's
actually this is actually really good, because that's very similar to what Larry would. I mean, the thing that was always interesting to me is that, and this is one reason why Larry and I always got along despite our differences of opinion and so forth, is that he understood in a way that the SJWs didn't for the first couple of years, that I had no interest in winning anything. I couldn't possibly have cared less, and I mean, I knew there was virtually no chance of it, because the whole point was to create a equal and opposite reaction, which would result in exactly what we've seen. They destroyed themselves by handing out diversity awards for the in response. And so
this is really funny though. We did have a super chat, which I forgot. The Collector, thank you for being here, brother, and thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, God bless. Sorry I haven't been around lately, been super busy, but I'm here helping out when I can. I appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you so much for sending that over. It means a lot.
Yeah, and just to be clear to the chat, in case you don't understand this, we're not. I mean, yes, we're kind of doing this to prove a point because Larry is a significant voice in the field, and he's, in my opinion, and I suspect John's, erroneously dismissing the power of AI and what it can do as a tool.
Correct. Yes,
but we're not. So we are using him as an example because of that particular opposition.
But I didn't just use him as an example. I created, and I didn't do this for the way somebody speaks on Twitter. I mean, it's just funny because Larry's very obvious how he speaks on Twitter. I also took Peter David as a writing style and made my own Star Trek New Frontier chapter.
Yeah, but the point is nobody knows who that is. Also,
I know who it is, Vox. I know who it is. Chat, do you know who Peter David is? Prove Vox wrong. Hold on. Let's poll the chat. We're going to poll the chat. Do you guys know who Peter David is? I think Vox is wrong here. I think most of my chat will know who Peter David is. It's going to be my example.
I have never heard of him.
You've never heard of Peter David?
Never. Ha! Shooty Bear says, sorry, no.
Do you know who Peter David is? Let me see.
Silent Draco says no.
Oh my gosh. Oh, look! I met Peter David. There we go. Oh my gosh. Let's see. We got 70% no to start.
Frankly, I'm a little surprised you haven't got your poll thing working yet.
My poll's going. It's on right now. This is Peter David. He's this creator of Spider-Man 2099. And he's nearly destitute after being denied for Medicaid, and Marvel left him broke and in a ditch, basically.
That's too bad.
Yeah, that's what Marvel does. Yes, Incredible Hulk. Yes, there we go. Look at this. Here we go. People know who he is. People know what I'm talking about for my niche shit.
I'm just saying, especially if he created comics, they're not going to know his writing style.
Yeah, but but he did his Star Trek novels too, and that's what's important. Everybody cares about Star Trek novels, right? Right?
I'm not even going to touch that one because you know where I'd go. So
yeah, this is really sad about the guy though, for sure.
It is. Yeah, but but here's the thing, to get back to the AI stuff we were talking about. One of the remarkable things is that we've sampled probably 15, 16 different authors, and two of the most obviously distinct are Larry Correa and Neil Gaiman, and then to a certain extent, John Scalzi.
Right.
To the point where when I was playing that librarian game, I didn't even bother having people guess when it was those people because it was so obvious. I mean, it was amazing how you guessed Larry Correa in 2 sentences.
Yes.
Like less than 2 sentences. You know. And for some reason, it loves Chuck Dixon.
Huh.
It just loves Chuck Dixon. But the problem is, I think it loves Chuck Dixon and the Punisher specifically.
That's interesting.
Because every time you ask it to write Chuck Dixon stuff, it actually uses Frank Castle.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so, and also it's insanely violent. Like the example that we had used, it came up with a story about Frank Castle shooting a 16-year-old boy for an overdue library book. I was just like, I told Chuck that, and Chuck is like, damn. And then he laughed.
Oh, so much fun. And so the AI is very powerful is what it's coming down to at this point. And it can actually tell, so I guess I should pull up Larry's rant, his actual rant, so people know what I'm talking about here. But this was a while back, and I did a video on it earlier today, but it has gotten to the point where it's absolutely crazy. And so what Larry said in his rant was that a lot of newbie authors are thinking AI is going to be some super tool. But the part you guys are missing is writing is the fun part, editing is the hard part. You're giving the fun part to the machine and then doing the painstaking cleanup work to humanize it. I'm about 20,000 words into an AI novel right now. I'm writing my own novel also, which is separate from this. But what I found is where it takes me 2.5 hours to write 2,000 words, from plot to whatever. And then I will have to let it sit for a couple weeks so I don't have it fresh in my head, so I can go back and like objectively look at it and then edit it. I could put in 3 paragraphs, which takes me about 10 minutes to come up with the plot structure or whatever. And it'll spit out that 2,000 words in 30 seconds. And then I could spend about 20, 30 minutes editing it and to make sure it's high quality and it maintains the same continuity and style and the like. And it ends up pretty good on that point. So it's not actually painstaking editing amount of work because there's no typos, there's no grammar problems that you have to deal with. Like it's fine on that level. You just have to deal with some of the character and continuity subtleties, which is actually the funner part of editing, right? So
one of the things I've been doing, in fact, I got off the phone with Owen Benjamin right before I came on here, and next week I'm going to be releasing a AI assisted book on death. And this is a death in the Death Takes a Holiday.
This is the thing you posted on your blog.
Yeah, you can see the cover that you can see the cover right there.
Yeah.
And so Death and the Devil is what it's going to be called. That's the name of it's basically a collection of short stories related to to death. And so there's Death Meets the Immovable Object, Death and the Devil, Death and War. One of the ones that I wrote was at some point, Death decides to pursue a career in stand-up comedy at the behest of love, and so, which is funny. But what's really funny is that I came up with the idea of doing Death Gets Roasted, and so he's being roasted. Owen Benjamin is hosting it, and he gets roasted by a collection of comedians dead and alive: Robin Williams, Norm Macdonald, Dave Chappelle, etc.
Did Dave Chappelle steal the jokes that he roasts them with? Oh, that'd be you should put that in there. That's pretty funny.
He doesn't steal them, but Owen does. Owen introduces him as his favorite joke thief, and then claims that he's like, "Did you like that one joke? Yeah, he stole that one from me." So it definitely gets into that. But the thing that it did pretty well, not great, but pretty well, was you could actually see the difference between Robin Williams jokes, Norm Macdonald's jokes, and so forth. And so what I did but of course, AI tends to be a little bit muted. Everything's a little bit muted and soft around the edges.
Right.
And So what I did is I sent that story to Owen Benjamin and just said, tighten these up, sharpen these up,
Right.
you know? And so I think it's going to be, I mean, it's already a funny story, but I think it's going to be absolutely hilarious when Big Bear gets done with it.
Absolutely. Makes sense.
And so, and the thing is, that's not something that I would have even tried to do. You know, I don't write funny, but I can come up with ideas, feed it into the AI system, and it comes out funny.
Right.
You know, and so I mean, I read the one of the stories on the dark stream last night, and people loved it. They're like, "This is amazing." You know, it's and so the ability to create stories that are not in your own style. And I mean, you and I are two of the broader writers out there. You know, I write science fiction, I write fantasy, I write epic fantasy, and I write, you know, a broad range of nonfiction. You know, there are very few writers in our genre who can even come close to the breadth that I do. And I'm not counting the comics and whatever. But I can't do different, you know, I can do a Guy de Maupassant pastiche, but I can't do Larry Correa. I can't
Right.
do Douglas Adams. I can't, there's tons of authors that I can't even possibly do. And now I can.
What's interesting, I was talking about this with my Subscribe Star supporters in our voice chat before I came on the stream here, is the possibilities of this when AI actually gets a little tighter with continuity, is you can actually write a multi-perspective book and go, write this perspective from Larry Correa, this perspective from Peter David, and then really dial the perspectives in so there's such different voices because it's different authors' voices,
Exactly.
right? And that's going to make the level of characterization that much deeper, honestly, which is the opposite of what Larry was saying in his rant about this, that there's no depth, it's all soulless, etc.
Well,
It's going to be quite the opposite.
And people can do things with it that weren't even possible before.
Right.
You know, I was working on some music stuff, and you know, the ability to bring in a Black Baptist choir. I mean, that is not something that Psychosonic could ever do or would have ever done. But now the creative possibilities are much broader. And the thing that's crazy about what people are afraid of is that it's not destroying the storytelling.
Right.
It's enhancing the storytelling. What it's destroying is the illusion, because that's all it ever is, the illusion that people have a right to their own look and feel.
Right.
They do not have a right to their own look and feel. That's already been settled in the courts. Apple, Apple tried to claim that it had the right to protect its own look and feel, or maybe it's Microsoft. I don't remember which way it went, but the point is that you do not have any right to your own literary style. You cannot copyright a style.
Right.
You can't even copyright a frickin' title.
Right.
You know, if I want to come out with something called Monster Hunter Nation tomorrow, I can. I don't want to. I have no interest in that. But, you know, you can come out with a book called Gone with the Wind tomorrow. You can't use, you can't claim that it's written by Margaret, whatever her name is. You can't use any of her characters. And you can't rip off the plot.
Maybe I'll make a book called Gone with the Wind in the style of Patrick Rothfuss to finish Name of the Wind.
That could work. That could work. Actually, Dave B has a relevant comment here. There was a lawsuit against Data East by Capcom because they copied the look and feel of Street Fighter and they lost.
Interesting on that level.
So basically, if you're an author who wants to get a bug up your butt about, I don't want people writing in my style, well, tough. You don't have it. You've never had the right to it.
Right.
You know, and the ironic thing, of course, is that I'm about the only person that you can't do that to.
Oh, because it won't copy your style?
It will not copy my style.
I tried, Vox. I really tried to get Claude to copy your
I know. I am unique. It's so funny because they think that's a punishment, right?
Right.
And it's like, no, you literally can't copy me. You can copy everyone else.
Everyone
No.
else. It's really funny. It was funny with the guys earlier too. They're like, I didn't realize how based they were. Before
I
they were
was
coming out.
shocked. I
I
was
was like,
shocked that
wow.
I was
Yeah.
shocked that they knew who I was.
Right.
Like, what?
I was sitting there like, it's always a question mark because it's like, okay, these guys worked with Marvel, and I don't know, obviously they've been nice because I've obviously been supporting them for a while, but like, did they really know? And they came on, they're just like, yeah, those bastards been calling me fascist for years. It's like, all right.
Well, the thing that people tend to forget is that in the real world,
Yeah.
we're the majority.
Right.
The ADL, the media is still trying to call the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland. They're still trying to call them, they're the extremists and outsiders and stuff. They're the most popular party in the country.
Right.
The media's throwing a fit about Trump's tariffs. Trump's popularity went up.
I know.
And so, it's because we live in this little niche where it's very, very small, people tend to forget that the balance of influence is not what it seems to be. It's just that they've been propped up for decades, sucking off of the government revenue that's being funneled to them.
Right.
And we've known, you and I have known for decades that they're frauds.
It's always, to me, I was talking to somebody earlier, just everything that like gets any kind of certain escalation of popularity is fake. And it's all paid for. We found out, let's look at Assassin's Creed, for example. Ubisoft paid $2.1 million to influencers to stream Assassin's Creed Shadows to make it look like people were playing Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's ridiculous. 2.1 million was more than an A budget, a triple A budget in the late 90s.
Right. Crazy.
And so the whole thing is propped up. The whole thing, and that's obviously ending.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that I'm celebrating about, even though there's an amount of chaos, although it's awfully nice to find out that now our tariffs from Switzerland went down to 10%, which I'm not surprised by. I've said publicly on the blog and on the dark stream that was what was going to happen. Why are people still surprised by Trump slapping people in the face with something that's totally off the wall, and then miraculously negotiating something that's actually pretty reasonable? I mean, that's
right.
That's what he does all the time.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that the stock market went so irrational on it, because I mean, he's already telegraphed what his tactics are, right? And that's why China is fighting back, because they know that Trump's trying to do this, so they know he's going to just not, do it long term anyway. So they're like, F it, we're going to come back with 50% more tariffs on you, and then he does it back, and it's a fake trade war. It's not even a real trade war.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. There is a possibility of it because, remember, there's going to at some point in time be a real war between China and the U.S.
Right,
and so they have their own reason for wanting to not work things out.
That's fair.
And so,
I guess maybe that's a bad example, but with the European Union, for example,
with the European Union's a better example, but of course the European Union is run by clown world, retarded clown world puppets.
Right.
I mean, after he says, "Oh, because everyone else is being reasonable, I'm dropping it all to 10%," and then Ursula von der Leyen on the same day comes out and says, Europe is all about the Talmud, and we're going to impose 25% tariffs on the US. And you're just like, wow, the guy threw you a lifeline and you actually like spurned it and like took shots back at him. Like,
right.
I mean, there's obviously more going on than, those people don't give a rat's ass about the European people. And so,
right.
But anyhow, it's I think that the opportunities that are going to be presented to talented creators who are independent and who are not ticket takers is going to be it's going to be phenomenal in the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
pretty excited.
I mean,
we do have,
I'm
we do have
I'm
most
the
of
most
the poll going on here, Vox.
okay. How am
Turns
I
out
doing?
you were right that 61% do not know who Peter David is, and only 39% know who he is. I was off on my audience here. I was off.
Why do you question your Dark Lord?
I don't know why. You're always right.
I mean,
Yeah.
why do people still do that? I mean, honestly, it astonishes me to this day. You know, and I don't pretend that I'm always right. I'm not always right.
You're pretty much always right.
But I'm right a lot.
Right.
And mostly because I keep my mouth shut if I don't know what I'm doing. You know, if I don't know, I don't guess. You know, I don't estimate and all this sort of thing. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I keep my mouth shut. So if I actually have an opinion, it's probably pretty well founded. And it drives me crazy how, you know, I'll tell people like about the Chinese tariffs. I literally told the Chinese on Chinese state television, yes, Trump will fight a trade war and the USA will win it. This is back in like 2017, you know, and every Chinese economist is like, no, because trade wars are bad for everyone. And it's just like, what are you nutballs talking about? You know, it's basic economics. And, you know, and so I'm sitting here watching this going, maybe because the Chinese are smart. The Chinese leadership is very smart. I would go so far as to say brilliant. And so that's why I find it hard to believe that they're just like, you know, and wandering into this, that they don't have some other objective in mind, because I know they know better. I've told them better. I've told them myself.
Right.
You know, and they unlike the US media, they didn't ignore me. They actually offered me a TV show. I turned it down just because I thought, you know, if I'm against being a ticket taker, probably being on the payroll of the Chinese Communist Party is not in my interest. You know, but it is ironic that, you know, people will call us fascists and call us Nazis, and I'm like, literally the only connection I have had in the past 40 years to any party is the Chinese Communist Party, but nobody calls me a communist. So go figure.
Interesting stuff. We have a super chat from our friend Sleep Deprived Bear. Thank you for being here, brother. $10. Appreciate it. AI will do for writing in video games what moving pictures and sound recording did for plays. I can't wait to just plug in my plots and stuff and make my own sprite-based Final Fantasy RPGs, so I could just play them myself and not care. And then you're never going to see me again, because that's all I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
My own private Idaho.
Right? I will be gone the moment I can do that and make a quality sprite-based RPG. It's done.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. So, okay. That was our diversion into tariffs. So Larry continues. He says, let's say as an experienced author who's pretty good at this shit, just like his AI.
I thought for a second we were reading an AI thing.
You thought you were reading the AI prompt? I can't believe it replicates him so well. It's amazing. This is I thought about making my Larry Lairry Korea Twitter account.
I think Larry Correa with that I on the end is that works better.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Can come out and it spits it out for me in seconds, except for when I need to take that AI generated manuscript and make it not read like it was written by soulless autocorrect with a severe personality disorder. Now, this is interesting. And this is where he was totally wrong about knowing what AI is.
But in fairness, he was writing this in November 2024.
Okay.
That was before DeepSeek came out, and it was the AI, the text AI
Yes.
was not as good. I personally criticized it compared to the music stuff, if you recall, back a few
Yes.
months ago.
I
But
wasn't using it at the time because I thought it was such crap.
right, but
And
now that
yes,
DeepSeek was actually usable, although you had to do very heavy editing,
right.
and Claude 3.7 Sonnet is, you can just publish that if you want.
I put it into AI detectors for my AI novel, and after I do my edits, and it shows up at like 25% AI detected text, even
Yeah,
though
but
it's
you did the Neil Gaiman one that it was entirely 100%. Well, no, it was like 98% AI.
and it didn't think it was. Yeah,
It said
so
11%.
right. So my current novel, like I said, it comes up like 25%. Now what's interesting is
What's the link? I'm gonna try something.
the link is I'll put it in the back chat here. Grammar was this written by AI? Hold on. And it's Grammarly free AI detector.
Okay, I'll Google that.
And I'll just put it in the back so you can grab it. There's a back chat,
Right.
private chat. Here you go. And there's so this is it right here. So I put that in there. What's interesting is when I've got this AI novel, right? And so I'll put in a random chapter that I haven't looked at because I don't is this my writing or is this AI writing? I don't remember. I'll put in a random chapter and we'll see what it says on the AI writing on this random chapter. Let's see. Check text. And by the way, you can go through the passages. It'll because I have Grammarly, it'll actually tell me which passages it thinks are AI, and I could edit them to make it look less AI just on that front too. I don't bother because I don't think it Grammarly even knows what's AI or not. Because when I put in my own chapters that I wrote and that aren't used by AI, look at this, 0% AI generated. And this is this is a chapter that's all AI generated. Now let me put in a chapter that I wrote. And let's see. Because as I recall, it told me that I was like 10% AI generated at some point. I don't think this knows. I think it just makes up numbers.
Okay, I'm checking the story that I read last night.
It's loading.
0% of this text appears to be AI generated.
Yeah,
that's how good. Either the AI detection.
I think this is broken right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing it has no. I'm guessing it has no hope of dealing with Claude.
I think it's broken right now because it's just saying 0% on everything I put in. So, and I know I've input some of these sections earlier, and it has said otherwise. Where'd Vox go? Oh my gosh, I'm data from TNG. That's right. So yeah, interesting stuff. Like this isn't working at the moment. There's something wrong. Let me try this again. See if it works. I think it's broken. Time to change. Oh yeah, it's the battery changing time. Okay, it's still saying 0%. So that's well, that is actually 0% AI generated, but everything I'm putting in there is saying 0% Vox. There's a problem with the site right now. Yeah.
They're probably fine tuning it to try to figure out how to deal with
Claude.
Sonnet.
Yeah.
It's actually Sonnet because Haiku is also Claude.
Okay. Interesting. So that's where it's at these days, and I'm pretty excited. So
I'm so excited that my wife has been saying that she's going to start coming down to tell me to go to bed at 5 a.m. because I'm struggling to get off the machine to get off before the sun comes up.
I started messing around with Midjourney yesterday too, which you haven't been doing yet, which you don't need Discord anymore to get on Midjourney. It's a new thing.
Right.
So I actually was developing this is beautiful.
That looks like a torn cover from like 2015.
Yeah, that's what I did. So the Stars Entwined, I noticed like AI art is selling very well on Amazon. And so I decided to change the Stars Entwined, which looks like an old Tor book right here, right?
Mhm.
And the original version was this, which is actually done by artist Kirk DuPont, who actually did your Throne of Bones art, also, I
Yep.
believe. And he's a great artist. Don't get me wrong; he's a wonderful job. I asked him to do a space opera military sci-fi cover, which is always spaceship butts, right, and fighting. And he came out with this, which is beautiful, but it's impressionistic, and you can't really tell what it is. And it's a
Right.
little bit of a problem on that. And the font that he chose is cool, but it looks YA, right?
Right.
And so it doesn't look like military science fiction. I really think this has been a detriment to my sales on Kindle Unlimited specifically. Obviously, the people who buy my books because you guys know me, you read the book, you like it, it's different. But the people who randomly come across it as military science fiction KU readers want to see something that looks like a military science fiction KU book.
Right.
And I think I got that a lot better with AI right here, because the title font looks very serious. It doesn't look, and that's going to probably make people more interested in checking it out over time. Is my thought. See, as you look, it's almost a dead ringer, right, for this
Right.
space carrier Avalon, right? And so I think that's going to help the deal. I also did my Ayla Rin
Do
book.
you have a paid account now?
Yeah, I have a paid account now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say you must, because he had a lot of.
Because I had a lot of iterations. Yeah. Same problem. This did beautifully on our crowdfund. Ms. Crimson has beautiful art. I love Ms. Crimson's art, but it looks like a comic book, and
Comic stuff never does
it
well
just
on
never
Amazon.
sells well on Amazon.
No.
So I just changed it to the Immortal Edge here, where it's just a super hot girl up close, a sci-fi spy thriller, and it's in my spy genre stuff. So we're going to see if this gets that men's demographic who's going to be in on it. I just enrolled it in Kindle Unlimited. I didn't even have it in Kindle Unlimited before, to see if I can get that audience in on this level. I did the same thing for book 2, which had the same sort of deal. This was the original. Comic-y, cool, unique. But people don't want comic-y, cool, unique. They want
That's really, I like that one even better.
Yeah, I might even flip them. This might be better for book 1, which is where I run the ads to, right?
Yeah.
So, they're gorgeous. So, and people are going to probably respond to that, and that's what we're attempting out right now. I don't like the shadow on her face. I don't think it matters, and that's where, yeah. But here's the thing: if you don't like the shadow on her face, this is the beauty of Midjourney. I'm going to show you this right now. Midjourney. Let me go to the actual image here of that. Where did this come from? We'll go to edit, and we'll go to view all. Whoops. And okay, so here's where my edits were with this book. So the shadow on her face bothered you. Where was that at? Like right here, like in the chin, or what? Where do you not like it, Matt Faye? I have a bunch of different iterations of this too. I think I used this one. Where do you not like it, Matt Faye? The first one. The second one was fine. Oh, the first one you didn't like the shadow on her face. This one was fine. Okay, let's go to here. So here's our girl, and I used this one, I believe. So you don't like the shadow on her face, which like her whole face is a shadow basically. So I'm just going to undo her face, and then I'm going to go submit edit. I'm going to just go boom. I got to go back to the prompt. Fix her face with less shadow. And it's going to generate me 4 new iterations of just her face. And this is a cool new thing with Midjourney that they didn't have up until a few months ago. So you can actually, when you have wonky hands and things like that, you can just edit it out. And so there's a new face.
I do not like that new face.
I don't like that one either. Oh, that one's terrible. That one's even worse. And none of these were good.
No.
So I'd actually reiterate it again. And you can just keep reiterating this. I liked her face on this one. I think I don't know. Maffei didn't like the shadow on it, but we'll see if it can come up with a good face or not.
Better, but no. Oof.
Ooh, these are really bad.
I would just stick with what you got.
I'd stick with what I got.
Also,
I think it was pretty good.
they're mostly still all in shadow.
Yeah, they are, which is interesting. Fix her face with less shadow, but that's because the whole perspective's got shadow.
Right, it's all
from
shadow
here,
stuff.
so there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
Interesting, but you can edit out different things on the deal. So if I didn't like the gun, like,
Yeah, say make it a flaming sword.
make her holding a flaming sword. Let's see. Except for that didn't work out very well at all. Maybe I needed to hold on.
Yeah.
Let me
you gotta leave her hand in
leave
it.
her hand. Let me see. Let me go to brush size on this and go boop, doop, 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 doop. And then make
Get the butt too.
I'll brush size on the butt. So I'll go boom. Oh, it's backing it off. Erase. Hold on. Submit edit. Now I wonder if I might have. Oh, hold on. There's a stylization variety. Okay. Whoops. I just reiterated it twice just in case we wanted extra flaming swords versions. Okay, so that's not terrible. That's terrible. That's a little off. Did I delete her arm? Is that part of the problem? Oh, I did. I deleted her arm.
Yeah.
Wait.
No,
I didn't. It was just like that before. Okay.
Yeah.
They're all kind of wonky.
Yeah, but you get the idea.
Yeah. So interesting stuff that you can do that though. So
it's very powerful.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with Midjourney right now. And I did this earlier. And I was saying make an objectivist superhero, and this is what it came. Spider-Man was the first. Then we got this. This looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
We got kind of a Spider-Man-y person, and then this is our objectivist Iron Man, I guess. I don't know what makes that objectivist, but yeah. And then
have it draw it. Let's see if it can reckon.
Let me get this back to like a normal size and not as landscapey. Okay.
Tell it, have it draw a female member of the Global Justice League, a female superhero who is a member of the. See what it does.
Alex Ross style.
Okay.
Oh, if you give me a prompt, it can go off. If you give me a piece of art too, I can plug it in as a reference too.
Yeah, grab something from ArcTunes.
Let's go to ArcTunes. Where do you want me to grab? What do you want me to grab from Alt Hero?
Yeah, just grab something from Alt Hero. Doesn't matter what.
Okay, let's go to. Let's find a character that I can just pull. Is there just a shot of Dynamique somewhere?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
I'm just gonna go Dynamique Alt Hero. Maybe my Google machine will come up with that. There we go. Okay. So I will go to this.
It just says superhero. It's like a Supergirl, cat, like a Batgirl. It's not. It's just.
It's just generic superhero. Yeah.
Not even generic though. I mean, it's like Supergirl. It's like
okay. Copy image res. So this is what you do. Go. Make me an image of this redhead superhero. And you go CW. Oh, geez. What? Hold on. I got to remember the prompt code. You have to go. Oh, CREF. Okay.
Okay.
CREF is the code.
And then say give it a different style, like give it the Alex Ross style.
And Alex Ross style. And what would you like her doing?
Have her standing in front of the Eiffel Tower.
I spelled Eiffel wrong. How do you spell Eiffel? 2 L's?
EIFFEL.
There we go. Okay. It makes me an image. Okay. So I tried Alex Ross style. And it's going. How exciting.
Riveting stuff.
I know. This is great. I don't see an Eiffel Tower.
I don't either. But we'll see.
Oh, okay. There it's
There
starting
it is.
to it's starting to generate. Okay.
Not great. I mean, you get the basic idea, but
didn't quite get this
didn't get the costume right.
Costume quite right.
Yeah.
It knew there's a star, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's close.
Not great.
I can vary it and then try to submit a variant on this one.
That's fine. I mean, let's not beat the dead horse.
I know. But this is what you can do. You can vary it. So if you like something that's close, you can get a variation on that particular image.
Right, and then edit it.
And then it'll try to make some edits based trying to figure out what you like more. Now CW100 is supposed to when you put in a reference like that, it's supposed to keep that character reference about perfect.
Right.
And it did not. So it's getting there. I mean, in the next iteration, that's terrible. That's but yeah, that's probably the best one though out of all of them. So yeah, you get it's getting there. The images are not quite there. They do look like pretty art, but you can't get the consistent.
You can't control it yet.
Yeah. And once you can control it, and I'm sure
but that's the same problem that you face in everything with AI, though. I mean, music is getting better because now you can modify a section that is just 3 seconds long on Suno instead of 10 seconds.
Right.
It's much better because now and it's going to get to the point where I think on Refusion, by the time they go out of beta and do 1.0, I bet you'll be able to just change a lyric and not mess with the music at all, which
would be amazing. Right. Yeah.
So
cool.
All right. Well, hey, I should probably get going here because I'm running out of steam.
All right.
Great. It was great seeing those guys. And if you don't mind, send me the contact information.
Yeah, I'll put you in touch with them, and I'll send you the link to their campaign too. Perfect.
Beautiful. Okay.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Cool. All right.
See you, everybody.
See you guys.